Hello, podcast listener. I hope you're ho hungry for an episode of JJ Meets World.
That was a good one, JJ. Let's keep that in.
Should we keep that? Okay, good. Fantastic. No editing needed. This episode of JJ Meets World, we're going to take a deep dive into some fun holiday memories. If you like advertising, this is definitely a podcast for you. So sit back and think about all of the great things that you eat and you've given as gifts, and think about what you want from Santa this year. And if you say peace, I'm going to call you out because you don't actually want that. You really want, a Finamil. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4.
JJ Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure.
Yes, he is.
He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. JJ has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirled as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called JJ Meets World.
Christmas time is near.
Blah, blah, blah.
Na, na, na.
Blah, blah, blah.
I just directed a very Die Hard Christmas, and the company that's putting that on is also putting on a Charlie Brown Christmas, which I think is interesting because not a lot of TV shows get a stage adaptation.
Right.
But Charlie Brown Christmas does. And we have a segment where there's a character who's talking in a phone, and what the audience hears rather than other dialogue is supposed to be like just mumbled, like rah, 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 rah.
Is that the
And
parents?
so-
like the parents always sound like.
Well, so
adults always sound like
I
that.
made the decision to. This is in Die Hard.
Right,
This is in
okay,
Die Hard.
yeah.
And so I made the decision to make it the wah, 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 which is. I believe it's like a trumpet with the mute on is what, how they actually made it. And because it's a little like homage, like in our show, to a Charlie Brown Christmas that they're also doing. And so this last weekend, I added a bit where they stop the show and they pull out the poster and they're like, and just so everyone knows, tickets are now available for the production of A Charlie Brown Christmas, much more family friendly, way less swears. And it got such a huge response from the crowd, like just that little fourth wall break in that moment. And we break the fourth wall a lot. And then, our pianist plays the Linus and Lucy, da 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 da. And so I really feel like we've come up with something that captures the imagination of the general public with that.
So now that you've directed plays before, when was before this show? What was the last show you directed?
I directed Flanagan's Wake, which is a half improv, half scripted. You go to an Irishman's wake, and so it all takes place like in a small Irish church in a small Irish town. And so there's the priest and the mayor and the wife and the mistress and all these people who are there. It's the funeral version of Tony and Tina's wedding.
Okay, got it.
And so I had directed that, and we had a sold out weekend, and then our second weekend was the week that the world shut down for the pandemic.
That's right.
And so they didn't get anything. And I remember them asking me like around September, they're like, "Hey, do you think we could get this up and running again and we could do like a couple more weekends of it?" And I said, "Well, we'd have to do it from the start again." And they're like, "Oh, you don't think you can get ready, like turn around like in a couple days?" It's like, no. Like it just wouldn't work. Not only that, but varying degrees of people like, are you comfortable with this? I mean, that was a time when we were still masking.
Right.
And so like, I don't know how many people wanted to be in a theater at that time anyway, right?
Yeah. JJ, while we're recording, we're going to do a little behind the music here. I want you to scroll through and I want you to find the image that you want used as the thumbnail for the episode that we just recorded.
For the Clumpin'?
Yeah, because I think we got to call that episode Clump It, right? Or like clumping Phil's computer.
Big Clumpin'?
Maybe clumping Phil's computer. The line clumping Phil's computer was pretty great.
Can I tell you something? You and I are different people because on Macs, which uses a touchpad.
Yep.
You can choose one of two ways to scroll. You can drag your fingers down to scroll down, or you can push them up that scrolls down.
Oh.
You are a push up and I am a pull down.
You're saying that when I...
So, like, for example, I scroll by pulling my fingers down.
I see.
But I have to push them up like this on yours. And so
because
we
I'm
would
actually
not be
because
compatible
I'm
lovers.
physically pushing a thing upwards.
No, see, I want to pull it down. I want to like go down from there. I want this image. I want this picture of he and Janet Jackson, which is from the Nutty Professor
sequel?
2, The Clumps. But I only want the Sherman part there.
So just him, not her.
Just him, yeah. He's got a great. Eddie Murphy's got great facial features. Do you know that the third Clump movie, the third Nutty Professor, was supposed to be a very Clump Christmas, and it was supposed to be a Christmas movie, which is a genius idea.
That makes sense.
At the time of this recording, we're getting ready. It's the holiday. You know,
That is a
the,
very small icon.
good.
I don't know.
Yeah, it'll work. It'll be fine. Even if it gets blown out, it's even better. It's even better because let me tell you something.
I may have to just go find this scene and screenshot that scene.
Okay,
Which is totally doable. But yeah, there's no way this 300 by 100.
that's fine. That's fine.
Do you know how big I make the thumbnail? 2,000 by 2,000.
Oh, yeah, it's blow it out a little bit. You know, no one's really taking the time to look that in depthly. They're just like, is it playing or not? The Monday, December 23rd, that's the day this episode comes out, and Christmas
Never fear,
is
I got
there.
a larger version of it.
Oh, good. The Christmas season is upon us. I've been marathoning Christmas movies all month long, and I am definitely to the point of where I enjoyed more non-traditional Christmas movies than Christmas movies this year.
When you say that, are you saying, sure, you can make an argument that it's a Christmas movie, it takes place at Christmas
That's
or
the
something
thing.
like that?
A
but
lot
it's
of movies
not-
that take place at Christmas, but don't necessarily are like about the feelings and joy of the holiday.
Batman Returns.
That's a prime example. Gremlins, you know, and not all of them are horror movies either. But there's Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. If you've never seen that one, it is phenomenal. It's Robert Downey Jr., Val Kilmer, Michelle Moynihan. It's from the same guy who wrote Lethal Weapon, which, by the way, that guy loves Christmas. And if you go watch the first Lethal Weapon, it's set at Christmas time. He also directed Iron Man 3, set at Christmas time.
Right.
Dude just loves Christmas. But Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is legitimately hilarious start to finish. And I think it's the work that Robert Downey Jr. did on Kiss Kiss Bang Bang that was like, we should make a Marvel movie together.
I'm blanking on that guy's name right now.
Yeah, if you told me, I'd know. You'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's Black. What's his name?
Shane Black.
Shane Black. Thank you. There we go. We got there eventually." So I've really gotten into this world of watching Christmas movies, but for the last 2 years, I have had a tradition of on Christmas Eve watching a very new, very Christmassy movie, and I'm going to continue that tradition this year. I find myself alone in the like late night part of Christmas Eve. Jill goes up to Hillsborough. She stays there. It's just
That's
me
the
at my
best
house.
time.
It is so
The
like
best time to be alone.
the Christmas tree is lit and in the corner. Like it's just, you know, I got some time to myself. Last year, horrible, depressing place. And so like I was like, I need something to kind of pick me up. And what I watch is A Christmas Story Christmas, which is the sequel to A Christmas Story. Now, full disclosure, we were not a Christmas Story household. I saw it as a kid, but we didn't partake in the 24-hour marathon. We never had a leg lamp. It was something that was fine, right? And I can appreciate it as an adult, but it's not something that I feel I have to watch every single year.
When you were a kid, wasn't it kind of terrifying?
The ho, ho, ho. And I think they meant for it to be terrifying, right?
That's how we found out how much scarier our parents' upbringing was than ours.
Bingo,
Just
right?
that movie specifically.
Although, like, you know, that movie came out like in 1980 or like 83 maybe. So it's, but like that era of everything was terrifying because nothing had really been, people weren't putting effort into the looks and the feels of things. So like when the Wizard of Oz characters are dancing around and they're chasing they're chasing the kids who are in line waiting to see Santa. That's legitimately terrifying. Even though they're the Wicked Witch of the West is there, but there's also the Tin Man is also terrifying. You're like he's literally dying from the paint that you've got on him.
All right, give me your.
So my
is
opinion.
Is this what you're looking for?
Yeah, that's where it's
Something
at.
like that.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh,
JJ almost gets never any input whatsoever,
Never.
and this time I just let it happen to him.
This is great. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love the fact that if you didn't listen to the last episode, you're lost now. You have no idea what we're talking about. So, A Christmas Story Christmas, and I think I talked about this last year, but here's what I like about it. There's a reason why it took 40 years to make a sequel. In A Christmas Story Christmas, Peter Billingsley, who played Ralphie in the original, is now a grown man with a family of his own. And so he gets to bring his character back to life 40 years later. And instead of Gene Shepard doing the voiceover as what is supposedly the old man Ralphie looking back, he does his own voiceover for these moments, which is great. And the same people play his friends. Like the kid who played Flick plays the adult Flick. And you're like, oh my God, he looks just like he did when he was a kid. And one of them, Schwartz, I think, owns a bar now. And so it's a great story because it's homecoming. He lives in a big city and he has to come back home because his dad has died. They find out a couple weeks before Christmas that his dad has passed. So he goes back to the house on, I think it's Archer Avenue, is what it is. But they faithfully recreate that house. In fact, I think that house is still standing and has been a museum for A Christmas Story. So they shot in that house.
They actually shot in the original location.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And I think the only main cast member who gets recast is the woman who plays the mom, Melinda Dillon. I don't think she may have passed it by this point.
Okay.
But they replace her with Julie Haggerty from Airplane.
Right.
And I love Julie Haggerty. And she does a great job as a woman who's mourning the death of her husband, and also they have this running gag about how she won't make any new food because people have brought over all these funeral leftovers and she's got to eat through every leftover before she'll do anything. But it has that feeling of going to your grandparents' house. And this is why. The house has changed and been updated a little bit, right? So, for example, there's a new couch in the living room, but it's still the living room that you spent all this time in, right? And there's still the radio that you used to listen to. And so it's got this great feeling. And the movie revolves around him deciding that the best thing he can do to honor his father's memory is to make his family have a great Christmas, even though that this cloud is hanging over them, because he talked about how his dad loved Christmas. And I thought to myself, his dad didn't love Christmas. When I'm remembering the old movie, no, he's always complaining. I went back and watched it. His dad does love Christmas. He's just not Chevy Chasing Christmas. He's excited about getting the tree lit up and getting all the bulbs to work. He wants to go get the tree, he's excited about shopping. And so he decides he's going to do this. And I think the key to a perfect Christmas movie is to want something too much, right? Mm-hmm. Is to work up in your mind how great of a Christmas you can give someone, knowing that the best laid plans just never come to fruition. And there's a through line of he's a failed writer, and he's can't be honest with his family about the fact that he's failed, but he had made this deal with his wife where he could take a year off and work on his novel, and his novel's just been rejected, and so he knows in a week he's going to have to go get a regular job and get into that. And he's also been tasked with writing an obituary for his father, and he doesn't know what to write and how to sum up a person's life in it. And my God, it is just for the reason why I identify with Chevy Chase more and more every year in Christmas Vacation. This movie is sweet and it's funny and it's got a real feeling to it. It's got a very realistic feel in how epic sort of those moments are. And it does something that a lot of other movies about the death of somebody doesn't do really well, which is talks about how life continues to go on, right? So even in the days after someone has passed, you still need to get milk, and holidays still happen, and it's out of this world. And it's too bad it never got a theatrical release, because I think that's the reason why people mainly haven't seen it. But they put it out on HBO Max, or just Max now. I don't know why they chose Max of all things. But you can watch it there, and like you can rent it too on Amazon. God, it is so good, and it's so poignant. And I think if you've seen A Christmas Story, and at this point, who hasn't at least seen a clip or two of it? It rings true in a lot of ways. And if you haven't, I think you're all right.
Right,
but
right.
It's a richer experience if you have.
God, yeah. I was thinking as you were talking about it. I think if I were to ever watch it, I would only watch it on the same day that I would also first rewatch A Christmas Story.
Yeah,
because I would want to have that. When Justice League the Snyder Cut came out, like I watched the Justice League version first before I could watch the other, because I just knew this is going to deepen my appreciation for this. I haven't watched the new X-Men cartoon series yet. When I finally do, I think I'm going to marathon the whole Fox season, the shows first before I do. I think I would want to do that with this as well.
Yeah. And you know what? It's gonna make it all the richer for you, if I'm gonna be honest. You're gonna see the extreme attention to detail that they put into that new series.
It's wild how much A Christmas Story, the film, still ties into my own nostalgia, even though I didn't grow up in the time of those characters.
Right.
Because I remember when my parents said, we got to watch, you guys got to see this. This is amazing. Like they thought it was the funniest thing. So I probably watched it when I was 5 years old, right? 1990. And I remember being like, this is really anxiety inducing and terrifying, because I was 100% sympathizing with the lead character in that moment, like as a now issue. And I thought, this is terrifying. Why would you ever why would you ever think any of this is funny? Like even like when his eye gets hurt from, what is it, an icicle or something?
But that's what he tells his mom, but it's a ricochet from his BB gun.
Okay, so it is a ricochet from the BB gun.
And then he steps on his glasses.
I remember how anxiety inducing that was for me. The kid getting his tongue stuck to the pole, blooding the nose of the bully, like pounding on his face, like all of that stuff. I just thought it was so anxiety inducing whatsoever. But even thinking about that brings me back to the time I watched it and what Christmas was like at that time. And Christmas Eve to me was always synonymous with my grandparents in Moorhead, with their house. So we'd always be there that night, usually go to like midnight mass or something. The fact that you would be up that late at all when you're a kid, it's Christmas Eve. You've got to go to midnight mass, and you, at least as a kid, you want to see the news say, hey, we're tracking Santa right now on NORAD. That's what I was really looking forward to, because I was hardcore into the Santa belief. I really, really wanted him to be real, and I held on to it a few years longer than other kids, where I think I already knew it was fake, but I desperately wanted it to be real. I so wanted to be part of like the Elf Liberation Front or whatever that was
ELFS.
Whatever they're called. I thought their jetpacks were so awesome, and I wanted to be them. I wanted to be them so bad. I wanted to work for Santa so bad, escape my boring school, and just go be an elf in the North Pole. When Christmas came around, I remember one time, I remember walking through my mom's house and assigning different rooms as, okay, right now we're at the North Pole. And so this room, this living room we're in, this is where the stall where we're keeping all of the reindeer. And I drew a picture of that and put it up on the wall. And I was trying to enforce our house as like, no, this is the North Pole right now.
This is a sort of North Pole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one else would play along.
There is something so simple about the belief in a human being who just wants to bring you joy, right? It's not transactional. You don't have to do anything other than believe, right? And couldn't we use a little bit more of that just in this modern day era a little bit? I love the fact that Santa must be one of the most depicted characters of all time, right? It must be like, because there's no standard origin story.
Right.
And
right.
so that changes. And there's no standard set of rules. In our last episode, we talked about Dracula, right? Dracula can't go out in sunlight.
Right.
And all Draculas, all vampires, abide by that rule.
Right. And also the idea that the sort of collective idea of what Santa Claus is right now is mostly a commercial production.
Yeah.
Right.
It's Coca-Cola. Like our visual of what Santa Claus is with the red suit and everything is based off of the Coca-Cola advertising that started like in the 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
And that has become the now like agreed upon. He dresses in Coke red.
How rare do you think it, like, because they still bring that ad campaign back?
The Santa pack?
Yeah, it still comes back.
You know,
a lot of it's original art.
Do you know this year Coke took a huge hit because they made an AI commercial for it,
they?
and people were not happy with it. And like for that exact reason, like it is a part of our nostalgia. Don't cheapen out on something that we have come to rely on. Coca-Cola.
Did the AI make Santa talk or something? What did it do?
No, I to be honest, I haven't even watched the commercial, but like it came across, it must have been right before Thanksgiving when they rolled out the commercial, and people were just incensed. And I think it was because it blatantly feels and looks like an AI generated commercial, which is crazy because when you think of those, like I think of the one where it's like the highway and all of the trucks light up with their Christmas lights, and you see it from overhead. It's beautiful. And like that, Santa packs are coming, always, Coca-Cola. Christmas is a great time for commercials because it's the one time of year that companies actually decide that they're going to get their products to you going off of the holiday and nostalgia.
Right.
Case in point,
Hershey's,
the like jingle bells done by the Kisses. And I noticed a couple years ago they redid that. They did a computer generated one versus like the old one I think had been not stop motion, but
yeah, it would have been stop motion. I mean, they took pains to try and recreate that look as much as possible, but they wanted to be able to update it with new products.
Right, and I think part of it too is that was built for a 4:3, and so they needed something that matched modern day television dimensions too, right? And I'm sure online, you want to air that before YouTube clips, right?
Yeah.
Another one, in fact, I'm super jealous because somebody just recently was selling and I missed it by maybe like 20 minutes, but Fruity Pebbles did the ho ho ho, I'm hungry. Barney, my pebbles, your pebbles, 'tis a season to be sharing, Fred. Aw, Fred. Ooh. Someone had some of those animation cells from that commercial.
Oh, shit.
And they had been auctioning them off online.
That's wild.
Yeah, and like they went for like maybe like $50.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and I was like, I would have taken that in a heartbeat. I would have bought all of them.
Someone's got to be reselling some of those, knowing that that's insane.
Yeah.
At the same time, you have to also mention Honey Nut Cheerios.
Oh, yeah. My customary gruel will suffice. Merry Christmas, Mr. Scrooge. Did you say honey and nuts? That portrayal of Ebenezer Scrooge, I really like.
Yeah,
like that
really well done.
And they ran that commercial for a very long time before, like, it wasn't in HD.
It's also 4:3. Yep.
And so there's a whole era of commercials,
but
that were just great.
That was shot on 35 millimeter, though.
Oh, definitely,
no question. It was shot, or maybe 16, but it was shot on film, so they could go back and remaster it. I mean, even the drawing cells themselves could be rescanned because they would have been done by hand. The animation of does he have a name besides B? I can't remember.
Yeah,
Chester. No. That's Chester Cheetah with Cheetos.
I'll find out right now. But he's got to have a name, right? It's something stupid like Honey the Bee or something like that.
I'm sure there's got to be a Snap, Crackle, and Pop Rice Krispies cereal ad from there. Do they still use Snap, Crackle, and Pop?
No. Well, no, they do. They use They use Snap, Crackle, and Pop for sure. I don't know if they call them out by names anymore or if they just call them like cereal elves. Do you remember the era when there were 3 chefs making Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
Oh,
there was
vaguely
like the one that we have now. His name is Wendell.
Yeah,
and he's like Santa.
That's right.
And then there was a real tall, thin one and a shorter one.
Oh my God!
It was essentially like Alvin and the Chipmunks. And I remember when they dropped the other 2 because Wendell went cinnamon crazy. Was like the premise of his ads, and I'm like, holy God, did he murder those other like chefs? Did that happen? Like that's crazy to me.
I completely forgot about the fact that it was 3 of them.
Right?
Then,
oh, definitely.
And now there is only one.
Okay.
Because now you look at a modern box, he's not even there on Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Now it's just product.
Okay. According to this Wikipedia page, Honey Nut Cheerios mascot is an anthropomorphic bee designed for the first commercials by Dean Yeagle at Xander's Animation Parlor in New York City. I want to go to Xander's Animation Parlor. That sounds awesome. The bee did not have a name until 2000 when Christine Tong, a 5th grade student from Coolidge, Texas, won a national contest to name him Buzz Bee. Several different voice actors have provided the voice of Buzz, originally by Arnold Stang. Billy West has done the voice of him at one point. Jason Marsden too? What? So, his name is Buzzbee.
Buzzbee. Like all one word?
Yeah.
General Mills has a page called The Story of Chef Wendell.
Really?
On their website.
Oh, it's still hosted on their actual website,
This was an article from 2014 that says The Story of Chef Wendell, as Cinnamon Toast Crunch marks its 30th birthday this year. So now it's 40.
Whoa, okay.
Right? The brand team is also taking time to salute Chef Wendell, the cereals baker, CTC's most famous chef. The cereal debuted in 1984. Wendell went to work at that time too, along with his 2 sidekick bakers, Bob and Quello.
Please spell Quello for me.
But Quello is spelled Quello. But he was not first called out by name on the box until 1990 in the How Does Wendell Get Out of TV Land promotion they were doing at the time. And so he gets named for it. Look at how they were even drawing those guys back in the day.
Right. Okay. So, like the drawing Tucker's showing me looks like a drawing from the 50s.
Yeah.
Like a cereal box cover from the 50s. Certainly not 1990.
That's 1990, though. The other 2 chefs were taken off the box in 91. It was as soon as 91, even though I remember these commercials. And then it was just Wendell. Yeah, they stick with Wendell until looks like 2000, maybe 2014, probably. I don't know.
2025, hashtag bring back Wendell. Hashtag we want Wendell.
Years ago when I was a young adult, I would try to organize Halloween costume teams to go in theme as something. Like one time we did Batman villains. One time the idea was gentleman mascots.
Yeah.
Being mascots who would go to, who may have like a secret club that they get together and play backgammon or whatever. I don't know. And I remember I was trying to recruit you as Chef Boyardee.
Yeah.
But you had other stuff going on. You weren't able to make it. I was the Pringles logo.
Yep.
Who that dude doesn't have a name, right?
Mr. Pringles, I think.
Mr. Pringle. Right? We had Scott as the KFC Colonel.
Yeah.
Scott Haugen.
As the Colonel.
No. He was. I'm wrong. He was Captain Crunch.
Oh.
Delzer was
was
the KFC Colonel, and then Missy Teeters was Mr. Peanut. But we were trying to I wanted to get a Red Baron. I wanted to get Chef Boyardee. I wanted to get Count Chocula because he was a count.
Yeah, that would be a good one too.
He had some level of distinguishment. I really loved my costume that year. That's probably the best Halloween costume I've ever done.
And you made the Pringles bow tie.
Made the Pringles bow tie. Found a red jacket. Basically made him he looks like he's in a barbershop quartet.
Yeah, he's got the boaters straw hat on.
Yeah.
That was a great costume that year. You could use that every year and be a happy camper.
It was my MySpace icon for the longest time.
Is there something Christmassy, like is there a food or a tradition or something that like this is Christmas to you?
Ooh. The only tradition, well, there were a couple of traditions we had that my mom made sure to do. One was she would always give all of the kids a new Christmas ornament on Christmas.
Yeah.
So each kid had a theme. And so mine was toy soldiers for the longest time. It changed a few years ago, but I can't remember actually what it changed to. I'm blanking on it right now. She's since left
real soldiers.
Yeah. She's since left that the kind of themes and changed it up a bit. That was one. Another one was who got to put baby Jesus in the manger on Christmas Eve night. So there was always my mom's. Even though I'm not of the faithful, one thing I really want to get like I want to, my mom to bequeath to me is her manger set.
Yeah.
Because we always had this one. I'm sure she bought it at just at whatever store outlet she could at that time in the 80s. But it's old style. Like, it does not look like a modern day one. It almost looks like she had someone build the manger themselves.
Oh, okay.
Right. And I always, as a kid, was kind of fascinated by it because even in the late 80s, that was not the style of anything being made at that time. And so I've always really liked my mom's old manger set. So to me, seeing my mom's old manger set out and on display, I need to see that. I need to see a real Christmas tree that has actually been bought from a lot and brought in, so you can smell the pine and there's needles in the ground that you're trying to sweep out of the way. I wish we still had the same fire hazard like lights, because I loved the old like just bulbs that got too hot. You shouldn't have this on a tree. I could go on and on. The things that remind me, oh, Christmas, getting a big thing of Chex Mix from my mom. That's what I always ask for every Christmas. It's just a giant tin of Chex Mix, and she makes it, and I just sit in the corner and eat that while everyone opens their presents. I fucking love it.
Sit in the corner and eat.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm like, leave me alone. I'm eating my Chex Mix.
My grandmother used to do a fruit cup my grandma Alice, and it was just like frozen fruit, but she had to order it from somewhere, and it came into the grocery store. And so like it was like frozen cantaloupe, and so you'd be like and for whatever reason, frozen fruit cup reminds me of Christmas. My mom, years ago, like once my sister and I were out of the house, a couple years before she passed, she did a deep dive into all of our Christmas stuff, and she decided, like there's no point in really disorganizing the whole house. I will keep the Christmas stuff that really is important to me. So she kept all of the stockings and some of the stuff, and so she put it all in a bin, and then she had another bin that was all the like to like this can find a new home at a thrift store. And so that year when she went to go open up the bin for all the Christmas stuff, turns out she had brought the wrong bin to the thrift store, and so all of our Christmas awesome stuff gone. Now she kept all the ornaments, so like it's like a small like paper plate with a picture of like Jesus in the manger that I had like scribbled over, and that one is still there. We have a theme for our tree every year, and so we don't use a lot of the old ornaments, but it's kind of nice to look at them every now and then. One of the things I miss, and I've looked it up on eBay, and it's insanely expensive to replace, but it's a porcelain painted Santa Claus that's probably like 3.5 inches tall. And then he's got a little tiny, and he's in a seated position, and he's got a little tiny porcelain like piano bench that he sits on, and then there's a porcelain piano that has like a wind up in it, and it's one of those things where it's a piece of metal that moves around, but it's got little tongs on it, and then it's got little like nubs, and there are like 4 tongs that come out, and when you hit a tong, it makes like a ding ding ding.
Yeah, okay.
But when you play it, it's dee 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 dee, and like it's just this. It's a cute little music box version of it. And I used to love that. And I remember exactly where that sat. And then there's a reindeer that's sitting on its butt, but like leaning back like it's about to crab walk is what it looks like. Now, for whatever reason, we have that reindeer. Okay. And the reindeer's white too, rather than being like brown. And so I still have that. So I just need to get this Santa Claus. But, for us, we have a family tradition at both Thanksgiving and at Christmas that we make this mandarin orange Jell-O. And so what you do is the big packet of Jell-O is 2 cups of boiling water. You add the Jell-O, and then you add 2 cups of regular water, and then you put it in the fridge. That's how you make orange Jell-O. But if you want to make the Gordon family mandarin orange Jell-O, this is what you do. 2 cups of regular boiling water, add the gelatin, dissolve it, and then add 2 cups or 1 pint of orange sherbet ice cream. And it's actually sherbet. There's no second R in sherbet, but I'm going to say sherbet because this is America. So you add that in, and then it melts, and then you add an 8-ounce container of mandarin oranges, which all kind of float to the top. And so it makes it very opaque. Like you can't see through it because of, the orange sherbet.
Right.
Oh my God. It's good. And here's the thing. I would never eat that outside of Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Sure.
Right? But like this last Thanksgiving, I made a big bowl of it for myself and I made a big bowl for my sister. And she's like, yeah, my husband's obsessed with this. I'm going to need the recipe. And I was like, oh, look who's come to someone who's been keeping the family recipes alive. And now all of a sudden you want something from me? Like, because my sister is heartless.
All they got to do is listen to this episode of JJ Meets World.
Yeah, but Chrissy doesn't listen.
You've already spelled it out.
Chrissy doesn't listen.
Wait, so you're saying that Chrissy is really just doesn't give a shit about family things unless it benefits her all of a sudden? Like,
even if it benefits. So my sister, if you need to clean out your house and you need that someone who's like, why are you holding on to this? You don't need it, garbage. Or this is giveaway.
That seems so counterintuitive to the fact that she cries at every commercial.
She does.
Right?
She loves, like I posted the Folgers, like Peter coming home for Christmas. The Folgers ads are so good.
It's not like she's not sentimental.
And she's like, did you post that so I'd cry? And I'm like, yeah, did you? And she's like, yes. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. And she is sentimental on so many things, but she doesn't need a thing to make her sentimental. Like, I think she can tack into her feelings and feel those things. Whereas, like, I like to hold. So here's an example. So I recently cleaned out my home office, which has needed it for 2 years now. And I mean, I cleaned out everything. And a lot of this stuff that ended up in that office was from my mom's home office and art supplies from before she passed, right? So half full sketch pads of like notes and things like that. I just was like, I'll deal with another day. Well, I used this vacation time I recently had to clean it out. And I was given 2 amazing gifts from beyond the grave. And the first one was I opened up a notebook of mine that at one point, when Shelly, who's the anniversary of her death is about to come up, she had been in my basement at some point spending the night, and she had written me this really long note about, what I mean to her. And it's dated like 2017.
Oh, wow.
Something like that.
You've never seen this before?
I'd never seen it. No, it was even like 2014 because it was when I was still in my old house.
Wow.
And I had never seen this before. And so I read it. I got to read it for the first time ever. And it's pages and pages, and it's memories and, thoughts. And it's like even the person who she was at that time, it was this time capsule. And I was like, how lucky am I to have found this?
Right.
Like at this point. So then in another one, I found a sketch of like a wooded area without no leaves on the trees and like done with browns and grays, and there's no ground, but it's kind of just like if you were looking through the woods. And so it's from 1998. It was dated like 12/14/1998, and it was waiting for Dinah, and it had my mom's like PS at the bottom. And I was like, here I found a piece of my mom's artwork I had never seen before.
Wow.
And so her friend Dinah, I'm going to take it out and I'm going to frame it and send it to Dinah. And I thought that'd be a nice little piece. But like, maybe I'm not leaving enough stuff for future generations to find and be like, oh, this is an interesting thing. Like, look, I should appreciate this a little bit more, like maybe this is the year I finally have my grandma's awful fruit cup again. Just ruin a bunch of fruit by freezing it, and then use it. Oh God, she loved that fruit cup. She thought that, and I don't think she ever ate it, but she loved. And she's like, "Well, I got to make sure I got the fruit cup."
Yeah,
and be like, "You don't,"
because to her, she's saying, "I need to at least be able to provide consistency from Christmas to Christmas."
And she had like. By the end, and like other people helped with a lot of stuff. I remember my sister will say it's the worst Christmas of her life. And because at one point we stopped having Christmas Eve or Christmas Day at my grandmother's because the family got too big. And so we had to start hosting it in a place that had a bigger living room than my grandmother's townhome. And that I think was a bummer for my grandma. But at the same time, like it's also nice that like now she doesn't have to be responsible.
Yeah.
So my grandmother had a turkey roaster that she would plug in the guest bedroom. And you know what a turkey roaster is? Okay. So, and this thing was old. Like it had a cloth cord. So you know how old it is, right?
Yes.
So
yes. No ground whatsoever.
No ground. No. I mean, like this is a fire waiting to happen. So that year, amongst the things that happen when they pulled the turkey out of the roaster, no one removed the pins from the turkey that were keeping it held together, because you can't put twine inside a turkey roaster. I think that can start on fire really easy. And so they're like, well, everyone chew really carefully because we carved the whole turkey, and so in the turkey are metal pins somewhere. And so that was like a big issue. And then it was always customary for the women to go and do the cleanup after like the meal, right? But my mom was like, well, forget that. JJ's going to help with this. And in all honesty, my mom taught me that we are all equal at a very early age, to the point of now where when I see men assuming that they don't have to do that, I'm like, get off your ass. You can take out the garbage. Like you've got a part of this thing. And so my Aunt Jonelle was serving hot coffee, like after dinner coffee, and she came around the corner and my sister was sitting there and she spilled hot coffee all down my sister's like shirt. And so like it burned my sister, and we weren't leaving yet. Like we still had to do presents and stuff. And so my sister went and laid down in my grandma's bed.
Oh, that sucks.
And had to wear like one of my grandma's shirts and everything like that. And she's like, I was
Chrissy.
just miserable.
That is the worst.
It is the worst.
That
And
sucks.
so she's like, I was in such pain, but nobody was doing anything because it's still Christmas.
Just lay there for right now.
Right?
We all have Christmas. Then we'll take you to the doctor.
Yeah. We don't get to see your cousin Jim every day, Chrissy. And then you'd think, well, there's no way that this Christmas could be any more of a disaster. You're wrong, because we get home, and at that time, my bedroom was in the basement of our house, and we had an old, like, stand-up freezer that we kept in the basement, and we never used it. Like, I think, my parents every now and then put something in there, but it had been there forever, and we just never used it. Well, my dad had been goose hunting, and which is unheard of for my dad, but he had bagged like 3 geese and he put them in there. And at some point during the last week, the refrigerator had gone out, like had stopped working, like just didn't have power. And so when you're gone from your house for a whole day, all of a sudden you come back and you can start to smell those things. And so my mom and dad come back and they're like, what stinks? And so they go downstairs and my mom opens it, and these rotting carcasses, like we're talking not cleaned, they still have the heads on them, everything like that. The smell of like them sitting in this hot box for like days. And so it smells so, like my mom immediately starts to like almost vomit. And so then my dad has to clean it out the night of Christmas, and my bedroom's down there and I can smell it. It's ungodly. It is so bad. And so I remember being like, great Christmas, guys. Great Christmas. We really nailed this one. The Gordons did it. And I want to say that was the last Christmas that we had at my grandma's, and then after that we started hosting Christmas Day down at our lake place.
We did a Christmas at Mama Luke's in Kentucky once.
I bet that was great.
It was awesome, and we have a lot of video from it because my dad was really big into capturing family memories on the VHS camcorder and stuff.
And I bet he talks through the whole thing. He's
no,
like,
actually, no, not
what?
Not really. No, yeah, you do see me on camera opening Super Mario 2.
Oh, I bet you were excited.
Oh my God. I remember that moment. I remember holding that game in my hands thinking, nothing will ever be better than this.
Oh.
Yeah. And like, I hadn't brought my Nintendo with me. It was still back at home. So I
bet you were super
I was going to have to
that.
wait. But, I don't know if you've seen the meme of like someone saying, me in the 90s, my mom's driving me back from, media player or whatever. And I'm just rereading the back of the game cartridge over and over again. So that's all I did on that trip was I would read the booklet and stuff and examine the game cartridge itself.
I don't know what I could open today that would give me the joy I had like opening a Super Soaker back in the day.
Oh yeah. I don't do a ton of nostalgia buys of like old toys and stuff, but I did do that once fairly recently for a gift that I got on Christmas or at Christmas Eve. It would be, we'd go to their place for Christmas Eve because then we'd do midnight mass. Then we'd have our own Christmas at home in the morning, and then that afternoon we'd go back.
Okay.
Right. And so like cousins are there, and then we're all playing, and everyone's each going to probably have one more present to open. Right. So like you didn't open your present Christmas Eve night. And that was when I got my first Ninja Turtle.
Ooh.
And it was Michelangelo. and it's I forget the exact name of the line, but it was part of the series 1. But it's one where he's sticking out his tongue, and you can wind up his arm and it twists, and then there's different weapons you can put in his arm and make it twist. And I remember getting that, thinking that was the coolest thing ever. Opening it, I remember the little joke book that came with it, so I went and bought one of those, still in its complete packaging, and that's just sitting on my shelf because of the memory of that.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be another Christmas memory. That would be, I wouldn't ever open that now, but I remember getting it in the mail and feeling that way. I think the other thing for me with Christmas, though, was always Christmas was the time where you could ask for a really expensive present.
Yeah.
And so that's where I would make the ask for video game stuff. So that was when I got my Sega Genesis. It's probably when I got my PlayStation. And when I got last year, when I won my Nintendo Switch at the company Christmas party, it brought all those feelings back. I hadn't felt like that since I was a little kid. It was insane.
I'll tell you something about coupling up that's nice, is that now you get like double the presents, or you can combine together for one big present.
You know what also does that? Is divorce.
Oh, does
Divorce does that for your kids as well. Just FYI. You get twice as many Christmases. You get twice as many birthdays.
You're right. You're right. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. For those of you who are wondering, a Finamill is a pod-based grinder that you can choose different peppercorns, and it's got a light and it's battery operated for people who have arthritis.